Hey everyone, it's Remy. So I wanted to talk about this weekend. I have a couple major points that I want to make throughout this video. It was the first time that I have seen family since all of these changes, since I cut my hair, since I came out, even since I came out, like even back in January, since I came out as gay. And it was very interesting, to say the least. I went home with my family down to Connecticut to celebrate my baby brother's birthday, and we ended up staying over at my grandma's house, and we went to bingo Saturday night. And I was excited because I really wanted to go to bingo, but I found out that some of my family was going to be there, and that made me a little bit nervous. And what especially made it more nervous was the fact that the cousin that made an issue about my name change, like on Facebook, who like started the whole Facebook drama around that, was going to be there. And so because of that, right away I knew that she was not safe, basically. I have like categories of safe people and not safe people in my head. And I knew Andre was going to be my other brother, and so it went okay. I was first like very in myself, very depressed, like kind of depressed, and like my mom kind of noticed, and I don't think she understood like why, because I did say to her, I was like, Mom, there's going to be like people, like, because there were more and more people that were coming that I wasn't expecting, and so it made me nervous. So I was like, well, I'm going to be meeting new people, and I want to introduce myself as Remy, but then everybody else is going to be calling me my birth name. And she's like, well, you know, why don't for just this one time? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, and my cousin that I mentioned, who was not supportive at all, it was just a very, hey, like, we both sat at opposite ends of the group that ended up being a pretty decent amount of people, which I was fine with, because I really didn't want to deal with her, and she didn't want to have anything to do with me, which was fine, because I didn't want to have anything to do with her. And I had already prepared in my head, like, all of these different things that I was going to say to them, like, in case anything came up, like, if they had any comment about anything. But anyway, I didn't end up needing to use them. But something that was kind of a trend that I noticed with some family members is like the whole, they're like ignoring me, but then they weren't. And it's like the idea of that, like it's, basically they weren't seeking out any kind of conversation with me. So they were ignoring me in that way. But when I did end up talking and stuff, they did sort of engage with me, but that was about it. Like, it wasn't, like, I had to make a lot of the initial engagement into the conversations for us to talk. My little brother was like that, Andre was like that, and some of the other people that were there were kind of like that. And then there were other people that I just didn't even bother talking to, and they ended up moving down to the other end of the table, which I wasn't too surprised. I don't know if it was necessarily because of me. I doubt it. Because they were also really confused and they first time at bingo. But it was frustrating, and I felt really like kind of depressed and kind of in myself. My mom kind of noticed it, but she didn't really like, what's wrong? She was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. You know, like I didn't want to talk about it because she wouldn't understand. And honestly, what made like the biggest turnaround for me was my cousin. My two cousins, Nikita and Paul, they just recently got married, and it was so cute because they came up to my mom, and she stood, like my cousin Nikita stood in between my mom and my grandma, and right in front of family friends, and she was like, oh, I was asking, like, you know, Paul kept asking, like, is Remy going to be there? Is Remy going to be there? Is Remy going to be there? And she's like, I don't know, and she was like, yeah, I don't know, I just, you gotta just see and find out, and it was amazing. Like, it totally turned the entire night around for me. Like, I was just like, and I came back out. I felt like I had somebody there that was seeing me for me and who respected me, even though, like, I haven't talked to her about any of it. I mean, I'm sure she saw, I'm assuming she saw my Facebook post then, which means a lot. And just, you know, as much as my mom is trying to understand, and that's great, you know, she still doesn't call me Remy. And when people call me Remy, I feel like that's them seeing me. And the fact that she was trying, and, like, I kind of was texting her a little bit, and I told them, like, I told her and her husband, I'm like, thank you, like, you don't understand how much that really means to me. And, you know, it was really great. Another thing that, so that was, like, kind of the positive spin that came out of it, which was really not, I was not expecting that at all. And again, at the end of the night, like, my other cousin, who was, meh, she did the whole ignore, she wouldn't even, like, look at me. Like, we were all standing in a circle, like, all, like, you know, saying goodbye, packing up, whatever, and it wasn't until, like, we were going to say goodbye that she even looked at me. And it sucked. You know, my cousin Nikita and her husband were, like, the only people that really treated me like normal. Like, nothing, you know, like, almost like nothing had changed. Which is good, in a way, you know? I mean, yeah, I mean, her husband did call, you know, said, like, oh, the crazy cat lady, and I just said crazy cat person, but honestly, like, the name thing really stuck out to me. Another thing that kind of kept happening was I was kind of interrogated by my grandma. And I think it was part of her just trying to understand it, and, but some of them were pretty, some of the things that were said were not very great. And, like, she kept talking about, like, the interview that I had this week for a job. Yay! And, you know, the question I kept getting asked was, what am I going to wear? And I'm like, I have professional-looking men's clothes that I'm comfortable in. Like, it's not an issue. And it just, I don't know. And then my mom brought up my cousin Bobby Joe, who's more of like a butch, you know, masculine, lesbian, bisexual woman. And my grandma was like, well, you know, she dresses more masculine or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, how do you see her? And I was like, I mean, she's just Bobby Joe. Like, she just does her thing, you know. And she's like, exactly. And so I didn't really think about it at the implications of what she was saying at the time, but I think she was kind of saying, like, you know, just be you and just do you. And I'm like, the difference between my cousin and I is that my cousin, as far as I know, she identifies as a woman, and I don't. Like, I think she was talking about, like, gender expression, and I'm like, that's completely different than what I'm saying, that I don't 100% feel like a woman, you know. And then my grandma said something, she flat out said to me that, you know, she would never call me Remy, and that she would always call me, and she didn't even say the name, she just said she would always call me my birth name. And, you know, I kind of went on a little bit of a rant to them, you know. I was like, because we brought up Andre, and I was like, here's the thing, like, I always knew that Andre was transphobic, because he had somebody that graduated with him who was a trans guy just like me, and he was saying, no, she's a girl, she has a vagina. And even at that time, like, I knew, you know, that was problematic. Like, I wasn't trans at the time, like, I didn't realize at the time I was trans, but even then, like, I was like, that's not okay. Like, I wasn't as well equipped, but even then I was like, no, like, that's not okay, that's disrespectful. And so I knew that he was going to have an issue. And I said to my mom, I'm like, here's the thing. I was like, it's blatantly I was using Dante as an example. I was like, it's blatantly disrespectful that he was disrespecting his identity by calling him a girl and saying all that stuff. I was like, that's bullshit. I was like, it has nothing to do with them. People calling me my name has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me. You know, people are trying to make it about them, and it's really not. You know, and it just, it drives me up a wall. Like, even when it comes to, like, the way I'm dressing and everything, like, my family and other people are just making it about them, and I'm like, it's not fucking about you guys. Like, you really need to get over yourselves and get your head out of your ass. It just makes me so angry, because, you know, I get that it's different for you. I get that it's different seeing me dressing this way and seeing the way that I look. It's not what you're used to. I get that. But at the end of the day, like, I'm still your fucking family. And you know what? Like, it doesn't matter that I want to go by a different name. Like, if you want to really get down to it, it's a nickname. It's a fucking nickname. You know? And I feel like my mom was almost saying, like, you know, it was brought up again, and my mom was saying, you know, oh, she doesn't expect us, you know, to really do that right away. It's fine because we're family. And I think my mom is kind of using that as, like, a get-out-of-jail-free card because she, you know, they're my family. And I'm like, no. Like, you know, there is going to come a point where I'm going to have to push it. I know this. But, you know, I'm not pushing it right now because I'm not on hormones. But, you know, I'm thinking, in my last video, I thought about it. I was talking about thinking about it. And, you know, what's going to happen when that stuff is going on? You know, it just makes me so frustrated. You know, they don't respect me now, but until I start transitioning, that's really what it's gonna you know, set people in my family apart from, yeah. It just sucks. You know, they're making something about them when it's not, and it's frustrating. Family members of trans people, it's not about you. It's not about you.